wait a minute. I'ma have to sit and roll up for a minute. I'ma have to get my smoke up for a minute. If I'm gonna have to race you fuck boys to the finish, let's go. If you're not first, you're last. Shake and bake on your bitch ass. We get the cash. Ricky Bobby about to smash. Everybody ducking fast like I'm a ghost. I'm the one doing the most. I'm the one repping the coast. This is a toast. Everyone raise up your glass. This is for all of my folks. I'm the new host. This is my show and I hope everyone's tuning this hoe. Y'all get the whole picture. Y'all see the whole spinning. Y'all get the whole vision up in this hole. Telling them, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up.
Hold up, let me
finesse with the best of them. Middle fingers going up to the rest of them. Everybody's talking, but I ain't stressing them. I'm just getting money, so we invest in them. Y'all playing games while I'm playing chess. I'm making moves while y'all make a mess. You do what you can, I do it the best. I know who I am. You still have to guess. I know, no, y'all ain't fucking with the realest. Y'all can't even get in the building. Now you catch your feelings. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. All you little haters, shake your head. Y'all know the feeling of what it feels like to be killing. Cause all you ever doing is bitching. And you're complaining about me doing things that you could never do when you should've just listened. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up,
okay, hold up, let me
finesse with the best of them. Middle fingers going up to the rest of them. Everybody's talking, but I ain't stressing them. I'm just getting money, so we invest in them. Y'all playing games while I'm playing chess. I'm making moves while y'all make a mess. You do what you can, I do it the best. I know who I am. You still have to guess. I know, no, y'all ain't fucking with the realest. Y'all can't even get in the building. Now you catch your feelings. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. All you little haters, shake your head. Y'all know the feeling of what it feels like to be killing. Cause all you ever doing is bitching. And you're complaining about me doing things that you could never do when you should've just listened. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up.
Do not. Hello, unfortunately we had some technical difficulties there. Just quickly but we are here now for round 6, the halfway point of the Core Racing Cayman Cup. This week we are here at Virginia International Raceway, a track many drivers may not know as it's not one common to Assetto Corsa. This is the first time I believe they've actually run this track for Core Racing. And of course they'll be racing in the Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport car. Very difficult track, this very fast and flowing. As you see, some very fast chicanes. There's a couple of them across the track and very long straights. Slipstream definitely going to be playing a factor here. As you can just see how quick they are coming up that hill through the chicanes. And over the top of the hill, as you see Hines dipping a couple of wheels as he comes over the crest, over the hill, as he comes through the one of the final corners on an alternative layout, as this is a second start finish straight. So you can just see how long the straight here is. Sorry, get there eventually. But as you see there, Hines coming down the very, very long straight. Drivers will be nearly falling asleep coming down these straights, as they are just so long. So Hines going to be looking like he's going to be the first one to set a flying qualifying lap. Drivers have been out on their out lap and obviously are starting their flying lap. Last round we was at England at Brands Hatch Indy for rounds 4 and rounds 5. Round 5 obviously having the reverse top 10 grid, as it looks like Hines goes pole with a 153.961, but shortly gets beaten by Simone. And as you see, drivers now beginning to set in some laps. Gianni is currently pole position with a 153, as that's a driver off. That's Darren Adams there off in the grass. Alessandro then going even faster with a 152.5. Looks like there is no Ross here this week either, which will certainly liven up the championship standings. So if we have a little look at the results from last round, as Alessandro getting a little bit of twitch on the exit, Francesco took the round 4 race victory, followed by Giorgio and then Massimo. So it was an Italian top 3. And for round 5, the Scotsman of Ross McFarlane took the race victory, with Martin Palm in second and Massimo making it another 3rd position. So a good strong race weekend by him, as Francesco then sets the pole lap with a 152.3. We'll have to see whether he can hold it for another 4 minutes 30. So you see Alessandro really having to fight the rear of the car. See, that is Darren Adams in front there of his teammate, as he pulls off to the side to let the drivers go. Francesco then still sitting on pole as he runs wide through the chicane, manages to hold it somehow. I'm not sure how he managed that, but he held on. That will be the end of his flying lap, I would have thought, unless he made a mistake on his lap. Massimo Massetti then, he won. He came 3rd, took the last podium position at the last 2 events. He goes into 6th with a 153.26. Miha Ersti, he's a newcomer to the stream at least. Not sure whether he was there for Brands Hatch, but he seems to be sitting down in 14th place between the 2 Clean Racing Group drivers of Erwin and Jeffrey. Francesco then sitting in pole position as he comes down the hill, looking to get it nicely turned in and brakes for the right hander. Very easy to run wide, as you see, quite a big cliff there on the left, as he gets very out of shake on the exit, dipping all 4 wheels on the grass, managing to hold it however, but that is definitely the end of his hot lap. We will hop on board for a lap now as we come through the very long start finish straight. Slight kink there just before the start line. Driver off on the right, keeping out of the way of Francesco as he brakes for turn 1. Getting it nicely turned in. We'll see different lines there. A few drivers will stick to the inside. Some may run slightly wide. So he's slightly turned in. This corner a very hard one, as you have to brake as you steer, trail braking as such, which can really unsettle the car. Then slow left-hander there, using all the curb on the inside, running nice and wide on the exit of the first part of the right, and then the second, using all that inside curb there. The stewards may be busy after this race if drivers carry on. So as you see, we have the fast left right section as we run up the hill nicely through there. A little bit of a dab of the brakes down a gear, get it through the left over the hill, and then braking late as it's uphill nicely through there, as he unfortunately runs wide trying to push the car. Managed to hold it on the grass, however, but that is the end of his lap. Massimio Massetti then taking 3rd place, and he's got a teammate up in front. That's the driver of number 31, as he runs wide to let his teammate go. Martin Palm then, he's rounding up the top 5, just 2/2 of a second separating him and 4th. Michael Curver's not been having the best of seasons so far. He is up in 8th and is looking comfortable this round. Eric Rotterdink in 9th. He's not been having the best of luck either, but he is running quite nicely inside the top 10. Darren Adams then in 12th. He's looking quite comfortable in the Apex Predator Racing car. Obviously ahead of his teammate Luca, who's in 14th. Very sideways through that right-hander. How he managed to hold it, I do not know. Certainly showing a good class of skill. Luca then in 14th, the teammate of Darren Adams, who's 2 positions ahead of him. We had a little bit of a word before with Luca before the stream, and he's been saying he was very struggling getting used to the track, proving that this track is definitely one a lot of drivers don't know. It can really catch you out, especially with quite a few of the braking zones not having brake markers, especially this very long straight down here. As you see, cresting the hill, you can begin to see the brake markers there on the right, but you don't really brake on them as you brake to get down through this right hand. As you see the cliff on the left hand side, as the clock then ticks to 0, the drivers will finish the rest of their flying lap. Angelo Trafilo getting up into 4th place, good lap by him, a 152.821. Michael Curvers then, he's sitting in 5th, as it looks like Felix Simoes, Eric Rotterdink, Jeffrey Langerick, Darren Adams, Chris Thorpe, John Loudon, Paul McLeod and Harrod will not be able to complete another lap, as Luca then comes across the line to beat his teammate and take 13th place. Francesco then going to come across the line. What lap time will he do? He does not go faster. He still sits with a 152.3. Alessandro then coming to the end of his flying lap. So does Martin Palm, who's down in 7th place now. Well, that might be Hines even. I'm not sure. That is Hines up in front. So we'll have to see whether these two can jump any positions. Alessandro will be in the slipstream of Hines actually along this straight, so it could make a bit of a difference in whether he can take the lead from Francesco. Which he does. He takes pole position with a 152.157. Will Massimio Massetti be able to improve and beat potentially his teammate? He does, and he's just behind Alessandro, so he locks out the front row of the grid. However, there's another Italian driver now coming, and it's Simone Bellon, and he goes into 8th place. So that is near enough your driver standings, I would have thought. Alessandro and Massimio rounding up the front row, Francesco and Angelo taking 3rd and 4th. Michael Curvers and Giano on the 3rd row of the grid. Martin Palm and Simone Bellin on the 8th row. Felix and Eric in positions 9 and 10. Jeffrey and Miha on row 6. Luca and Darren Adams on row 7 as Alessandro runs very wide through that left-hander there. He was doing a bit of off-roading. Not a car you'd want to be doing that in. It is not a Land Rover, that is for sure. Hines and Owen rounding up rows 8. Martin Front and Chris Thorpe on row 9. John Loudon, Paul McLeod in row 10. And 21st is Harrott, sorry. So we will cut to a quick advert break, but we will be back for the start of round 6 of the Cayman Cup. So then here we are before the opening of round 6 actually of the Core Racing Cayman Cup. The lights will begin to turn on soon as we now have the 10-second board raised. That means the lights will begin to turn on soon as they start to do. Engine notes begin to rise. We have 6 red lights and we are green flag racing, and drivers getting off to a nice and clean start. Looks like the 3 Fast and Age drivers getting off nice and cleanly. See a few drivers going too wide as that's contact there between Michael Curvers and Felix Simoes, and that's a Fast and Age driver off as well, and a Apex Predator racing car off as well. Quite a lot of contact there through turn 1. You see Martin Palm getting himself up into 4th place. A lot of chaos. Felix Simoes now going down the order as he comes under pressure from Martin Front behind, and he's got Miha behind. However, we're coming back to Massimio as these drivers going one by one through the fast chicanes. Martin Palm leading the train. He's up into 3rd place. Good moves by him through the chicane. As you see, he's got a big queue of cars just behind him. Martin Palm managing to gain a bit of a lead through the chicanes. However, that's a brave move by Gianni. He backs out, however. And now comes under pressure from Massimio Massetti, looking to get around the outside as Jeffrey then looked for a move up the inside. However, couldn't get his nose properly on the inside as he now comes under pressure from Michael Curvers. And they are side by side down the long straight. Massimio now really closing on the rear of Gianni. Hopefully we'll be able to keep an eye on both of these battles, as it looks like Gianni has managed to get up in front and Michael Curvers getting up in front of Jeffrey. However, Massimio now looking to get round the outside of Gianni, which he does. And then there's contact between the rear of Massimio and Martin Palm. That sends Martin Palm off down the cliff. And Massimio then makes contact with Michael Curvers. And Michael Curvers is off into a wall. Doesn't look like he sustained that much damage, but that is unfortunate for him. And that allows Simone and Luca to get up into 6th and 7th position. Good start there by Luca. He was down in 13th place. He managed to gain quite a considerable amount of positions already. And he now puts pressure on his teammate Martin Palm as he goes up the inside and gets nicely up into 4th place. Simone now looks to get around the inside of Martin Palm. However, unfortunately cannot get past. You see big long train of cars. Felix Simoes now going side by side with Martin front. Felix going up into 10th position. It's been quite a chaotic first lap as we come to Eric Rotterding rounding off the back of this train. However, Jeffrey has caught up onto the rear of Eric now. As you see, they are all going through one by one. Good 10 cars all battling for position there. And then there's another 5-6 car battle behind. So we come to Luca leading the train. He's gaining a bit of a gap to Martin Palm, and there's a bit of a gap from Martin Palm behind, as Hines is now going side by side with Eric, and Jeffrey looks to stick his nose up the inside, but the gap closes and he may now come under pressure from Felix behind. However, Eric and Hines are now going side by side down the long straight, as it looked like Felix dipped a couple of wheels in the background, and that has allowed Irwin to get up alongside. Eric Rotterding then gaining a bit of a lead to Hines behind, and allows him to get up in front. Irwin getting up past Felix Simoes and now puts some pressure on Martin up in front in the Northern Lights racing car. Chaotic first lap, as it looks like Massimio is now looking to fight his way through. John Loudon in 14th place. Good start by him. However, we're going to come back to this long train of cars, all really battling for 4th place essentially, as they are not separated by a lot. Irwin going for a move on the inside of Martin as they come through turn 1. Looks like Irwin's going to stick it. However, Martin will have the inside for the left-hander, and it does look like Martin manages to hold on to that 10th position. Francesco catching on the rear of Chris Thorpe. No, Chris Redman here this week. He won the race at Blackwood GP for round 3. Martin Palm now going side by side with the sister car of Apex Predator Racing, being driven by Luca. Little bit out of shake as they come to the top of the hill, going through the crest of the left-hander, and Luca now comes under pressure from Simone behind, and Simone's got Eric breathing right on his neck. We're only 3 laps into this 32 lap race, and it's already proving to be quite a hectic one. Michael Curvers then now going alongside Francesco. Michael Curvers, his luck really is not doing that well, as Simone is now alongside Luca. Luca will have the inside for the right-hander. Simone backs out, wise idea by him. So Luca holds on to that top 5 position. He will certainly need to stick his elbows out if he wants to hold on to that position. Michael Curvers then in 16th place, as that's John Loudon off on the side of the track. Darren Adams down in 18th. Not the best start by him, but Certainly he will not finish there if he manages to drive as good of a race as he has done in the past. Jeffrey then in 9th on the rear of Hines, However, doesn't look like he's going to get past. He is past Martin front as he looked to get a big dive from quite far back. Unfortunately couldn't get up alongside properly, and he won't be able to make a move through the next series of corners, not unless if he's very brave. But a lot of drivers won't be doing anything stupid this long, as it's about an hour race here, nearly 2 minutes a lap, so it roughly accounts to nearly an hour of non-stop racing. Especially with these drivers, fatigue is going to play a factor as they come towards the end of the race. As well will tyre wear and fuel rates. Some drivers may have to save fuel as this train then begins to close back up. Jeffrey closing on the rear of Hines as they come down the long straight. As you see now off to the left there, that is where the short course joins back onto the long course. As you see Jeffrey sitting in 9th place, couldn't properly close in on Hines up in front. So they have a bit of a gap now for Hines to breathe. Not a lot, as it's still only 0.5 of a second. As Gianni is down in 3rd place. Angelo getting up into 2nd. Good start by him. Alessandro, however, driving quite a race. He's already 5 seconds up in front. Quite a sizable gap as Simone now goes side by side with Luca. Luca going to hold the inside and hold on to that place. However, Simone may come under pressure from Eric now. Doesn't look like Eric is able to properly close the gap. However, he really closes it in the braking zone. Simone, however, holding on to that 6th place. Massimio Massetti already up into 12 as there was a slight bit of contact there onto the rear of Martin. He is really pushing that car to gain those places back. Eric now really on the rear wing of Simone Bellon. As they come over the crest for the left-hander and then down the hill before the back up the hill for this double right-hander before the long straight. A very altitude changing track here at Virginia. Certainly makes it interesting as the car goes light and heavy over the crests and through the dips of the hills. Jeffrey then rounding off this train. He's down in 9th, catching up to the rear of Hines again. As they come through the right hand, a slight dip of the wheels as that's Eric off. Not sure whether there was maybe contact or whether he braked too late trying to catch up to the driver up in front. However, he's lost a few positions. He's now down into 10th place. Massimio Massetti breathing on the neck of Martin front. As you see, quite a bit of damage there to that Porsche. He may have sustained some suspension damage, but at the pace he is currently going, it doesn't look like it. As he now looks to get round the outside of Martin, who will brake first. Looks like they braked at about the same point. Martin will have the inside for turn 1. However, Massimio will have the inside for turn 2. And he manages to edge out in front and gets into 11th place. Simone then catching back up to the rear of Luca, Luca running in 5th. He's got Martin Palm up in front, about a second up in front. As they come down the straight before the chicane section, the almost double chicane. As Massimio getting a place and overtaking Eric, managing to stick it round the outside. As you saw just how close the front bumper of Eric was to the rear of Massimio Massetti. Jeffrey then on the rear of Hines again, 0.2 seconds between him and the Apex Predator Racers driver up in front. Michael Curvers in 14th, closing back onto the rear of Felix after he had some turn 1 troubles. Certainly got a lot of chasing to do. So has Michael, in fact, after he got caught up in the collision with Massimio, which put him in the wall. A little bit out of shape there on the brakes. However, holding on and keeping that car going in a straight line. Simone Bellin then on the rear of Luca still, 0.2 seconds. Will Luca look to go defensive? Eric going side by side with Massimio, and however Massimio backs out as we come back to Simone now diving up the inside of Luca. Luca gonna have to stick it out around the outside as Martin Front unfortunately retires from the race. That's disappointing for him. Luca getting 5th place back, however Massimio is sticking his nose in. Can he get it properly alongside? No, he cannot, and Luca holds on to 5th as Hines nearly into the rear of Simone. At least it looked like it from this camera angle. Massimio going side by side with Eric and gets up into 10th position. But still very close between these. Just a couple of tenths separating all of these drivers. Shows some very good driving standards here at Core Racing. As you can just see the car almost leaping over the curb. See, the curb's not that harsh here at Virginia, but Eric really using them to full effect. Darren Adams now going side by side with Eric's teammate of Paul McLeod, and he takes 16th place. So we come back to Luca and Simone Bellin. They are in positions 5 and 6 respectively. So it looked like Luca made a Simone made a slight mistake and nearly ran deep there into the right-hander, and has allowed Luca nearly a second breathing gap behind. And Alessandro not being able to really gain much more of a gap. He was 4 tenths faster that last lap, as Hines is now going side by side with Jeffrey. Jeffrey going to be round the outside. Hines got the inside. Jeffrey, however, brakes later and gets it up in front. However, Hines is not backing out. He gets back up the inside and takes that position back. Good move by him. As they now come through the left-hander. Already proving to be quite an intense race here at Virginia International Raceway, the long version of this track, as Jeffrey gets back up the inside of Hines there. Good move by him, capitalising on his mistake. However, Hines is not that far behind still, as these two drivers trading positions. Massimio in 10th place. He is right on the rear of the Clean Racing Group driver, as that's contact there between Massimio and the rear of Irwin. Massimio not judging the speed difference very well between the two. However, it looks like both drivers got off fairly unscathed. So Massimio there sitting on the rear of Irwin. Just see how much the slipstream pays a difference, especially in 6th gear, as he now looks to stick it up the inside. Irwin not giving him a lot of room. Massimio not giving him a lot of room back. They bang doors, and Massimio gets up into 9th place, and unfortunately Irwin loses his position to Eric and may lose a position to Michael Curvers. Doesn't look like he has, and he holds on. However, he runs wide through the right-hander around the final turn, and that allows Michael to get up past and Felix and Francesco. So losing quite a few positions there due to a mistake and a bit of contact between the two drivers. Eric now closing on the rear of Massimio Massetti. and Francesco actually on the rear of Felix and Mose as they're coming down through the left-hander. Looks like he looks to stick up the inside. Felix got it covered, however, and that means Francesco unfortunately has to back off and loses actually a bit of time to the driver up in front. Paul McLeod going up the inside of Chris Thorpe, and that was contact there between the two drivers, and that allows Paul McLeod to get up into 17th place. Simone then in 6th on the rear still of Luca. Luca qualifying 13th. Really good start by him. He's been holding it for the first 10 laps here, and he looks like he's going to be able to hold it for quite a few more laps. Francesco then back on the rear of Felix and Mose after he closed in at turn 1. See coming down the long straight as he looks to fake left, goes fakes right, goes left. Felix blocking him off, however, and he holds on to 12th place. Felix really having to drive the defensive drive of his life. Gianni then setting quite a good lap that last lap, a 1:52.9. He was nearly a second faster than Angelo up in front. Looks like Angelo may have actually made a mistake, as he was down in the 1:53.8, and the two drivers in between him done a high 1:52. John Loudon going on the rear of Paul McLeod. I think he was side by side through the first part of that right-hander, however couldn't get past that grey, orange and black car of Paul McLeod. Massimio then getting contact with Hines and getting in contact with Michael Covers. He came straight back onto the racing line. Not the best driving by him, in my opinion. He was going very slow, and then he came back onto the racing line where the drivers were going full pace. As you see, Hines is unfortunately dropping off even more. See Felix really closing on the rear of Michael Curvers now. Michael going to hold him up for as long as he can. Massimio is certainly not a slow driver as he runs wide through the left-hander. That allows Felix and Mose to get up into 10th place. However, he really dives back up the inside and then runs deep and loses 2 positions to Francesco and Felix. Will team orders come into play and they push each other along? I'm not sure. We'll have to see. It doesn't look like it, as Massimio pops out and gets into the slipstream of Felix. Obviously going to have the advantage down the straight. It looks like they are side by side. Massimio getting up in front, as that's contact. That's contact between the rear of Felix and Massimio, and that sends Massimio spinning. And it doesn't look like Felix fared off any better either. He does stay out in front of Massimio. Massimio seeing red quite a bit here, making a lot of mistakes. Paul McLeod and John Loudon going back side by side as they come down the long straight. I believe John Loudon tried this last time, however he gets past this time, and that means he is into 18th place. Gianni then really closing on the rear of Angelo up in front. Both drivers in the 153s, as that's Massimio unfortunately retiring after making a lot of mistakes and quite a bit of contact. He unfortunately retires from the race after coming third in both of the Brands Hatch races. That is unfortunate for him. See Gianni really closing on the rear of Angelo. You can just see how there's not a lot of time or a lot of space between the two. 11th lap here, then you can see the hot air balloon in the distance. They've got a good view of this race as it's beginning to unfold. It looks like maybe Alessandro made a mistake, or our timing may be off. It looks like our timing was off there. So it looked like they suddenly closed down to about 6 seconds. However, it has opened back up. As it looked like Angelo made a slight mistake there, dipping wheels on the inside. Does allow Gianni to close a bit of time to the rear of Angelo, as he's now only 0.2 seconds now as they come into the braking zone for turn 1. Gianni staying in 3rd place. About 15 seconds then separating Martin, Palm and Gianni. Quite a sizable lead considering we've only had 12 laps. That's a second a lap. Luca still holding on to 6th place. He hasn't got Simone's not that far behind. Whether he's got enough of a breathing space. Hines in 12th. He's on the rear of Erwin. He's got Felix Simoes behind after that contact between Massimio and Felix. Gianni closing back on the rear of Angelo. He seems to be faster through that chicane section. You can just see how much the car's suspension is having to work with these altitude changes. He's got a bit of cosmetic damage there over the left front wheel arch. Looks like the rest of the car is in fairly good shape, however. The front of Angelo's not looking that happy though. As they come down the long straight, Gianni in the slipstream of Angelo. 0.2 seconds separating these two. As you can see, the brakes glowing bright red hot as they come hard on the brakes after that very long straight. Again, another one of the really long straights here in the season. Both drivers dipping quite a lot on their wheels on the grass there on the inside. 0.5 between Angelo and Gianni. Gianni really trying to use as little track as he can to try and make the track as short as he can. Try and gain every tenth, hundredths, thousandths of a second as he can. He lost 2/10 that last lap. However, Angelo was still lapping in the 152s. He lapped a mid 152 that last lap, and these drivers are lapping 150 or high 153s. Just shows the sheer pace Alessandro has here. However, his tyres will wear off. He's got 10 seconds to the drivers behind, which is quite sizable. And it does mean he doesn't have to push as hard as he is. However, he does look like he wants to gain as much of a gap as he can. Luca then in 5th. He's got Simone in 6th. And Jeffrey not that far behind. Eric then in 8th. Not bad from him. He's got Michael Curvers in 9th. And Francesco in 10th. That's rounding off your top 10 then. Michael Curvers coming onto the rear of Eric Rotterdink now. 0.2 seconds separating these two as they come onto the long straight. Michael Curvers then back on the rear of the DZ Racing of Eric Rotterdink. 0.2 seconds separating these two, as Francesco's not that far behind either. Looks like Eric is going to keep out in front as Michael Curvers isn't able to close enough of a gap. However, Michael looking to stick his nose up the inside for the left-hander. Couldn't get it in there as Eric running slightly wide. Does allow Jeffrey to get alongside as they are side by side down the long straight. Michael up the inside, looks like he's going to stick it on the inside for the turn 1. Braking slightly later, and Michael Curvers gets up into 8th place. Hines now going side by side with Erwin. Erwin up the inside, and he's up into 11th place. Gianni closing onto the rear of Angelo still. 0.2 as they come through the chicane. Gianni seems to be so much faster through there than Angelo. They were exactly 1/100th of a second between these two on that last lap. So come on to the long straight again. Looks like 0.5 between those two. So we'll come back to the battle between Hines and Owen. Or both of these battling for 11th place. 0.1 now as they come through the top of the chicanes. Hines nearly running wide, as Francesco is now going side by side with Eric Rotterdink for 9th place. Francesco going to sit back in the slipstream. We'll check with Felix and Hines. Looks like they have sorted back out into single file, with Owen leading the pack, Hines in the middle and Felix just behind. Francesco then now going side by side with Eric Rotterdink, and he gets up cleanly in front. Takes that position comfortably and gets up into 9th place. John Loudon in 16th. He's got Chris Thorpe behind. His teammate Michael Bourne doesn't seem to be here this week. May affect their team championship standings. Eric Rotterdink then in 10th place. Looks like he lost a position to Francesco. As you see, Michael in front, and Jeffrey up in front of Michael Curvers as well. Gianni unfortunately making a mistake by the seams of things. He's got some front damage now. He's lost about 4 seconds. It looks like he lost it through the first few turns, as their last lap times were near enough identical. Martin Palm in 4th. He's got Luca behind in 5th. These two drivers pushing each other to the limits to try and get a bit of a gap to Simone behind, which they are doing. It's about a second now between these three drivers, as we are about to reach the halfway point here in Virginia, America. Certainly already proven to be quite a hectic race in the first opening laps. However, the gaps are beginning to develop now. We're looking at about an average of a couple of seconds between most drivers. It was closing between Angelo and Gianni for second. However, after Gianni's mistake, he has dropped off quite a bit. So it looks like, yes, he did make a mistake. Angelo lapped a 153 and Gianni lapped a 157. Luca then in 5th, 0.5 still behind Martin Palm. Luca was slightly faster than Martin that last lap, up in the 154s. Simone also in the 154s as well. Jeffrey actually lapping in the 153s. And Francesco actually lapped a 152. That was nearly leader's pace there. Good lap by him. That has allowed him to close on to the rear of Michael quite considerably. And especially those drivers up in front. So we'll actually come to Alessandro Tarantino. He's up in the lead. He lapped a 152.8 that last lap. Similar time to Francesco, who's in 9th place. So certainly an interesting race here at Virginia International Raceway. Alessandro rocking the pink wing mirrors, the pink winglets, and also the pink side intakes. Makes it very easy for us in the commentary box and you at home to recognise most of the drivers. Michael Curvers then on the rear of Jeffrey, who's in 7th. As he closes up, he pops out of the slipstream to get up the inside. However, Jeffrey holds onto that defensive inside and holds on to 7th place. Michael Curvers then, however, got a better run as they stick it side by side through the final couple of turns. Jeffrey can have the inside, slight bit of contact there, allows Michael Curvers to get up the inside. Slight dip of the wheels, however, it won't make too much of a difference. 0.3 now between Jeffrey and Michael. However, Jeffrey's coming under pressure from Francesco behind, as Jeffrey actually sticks it up the inside. Good move by him, as they are still side by side. So it looks like Michael Curve's actually coming back out in front. However, Jeffrey nearly sticking it up the inside, managing to avoid a collision there. So they come back to Michael Curves in 7th, Jeffrey in 8th, and Francesco in 9th. Francesco just behind Jeffrey, however. 0.2 between the two. As they come through the chicanes up the hill. You see slight dip of the wheels there as Jeffrey makes a mistake and runs across the grass. Jeffrey holding on to 8th position, however. Francesco is not that far behind, so we'll hop on board with Francesco so you can really get a view of the amount of speed you can gain from being in the slipstream. You don't go much from the early gears, but especially when you get into 6, you can really see how much you gain. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold on, and Jeffrey stays in 8th place. As we are down to 18 runners here. You see Harrod catching up to the rear of Paul McLeod. Slight dip of the wheels there by Paul McLeod. However, we're going to come back to Francesco, who's going to look to get past Jeffrey. Very nearly into the rear of Jeffrey up in front. However, Jeffrey holds on to 7th. Actually, I believe the driver made a mistake. It might have been Eric, as they were running in 8th and 9th. So I'm not sure what happened there. However, Francesco, sorry, is still on the rear of Jeffrey. You see they're coming down the long straight under the Michelin bridge before the run up. The left, then the right, then the left, then the right. As you can see, Francesco really closing onto the rear of Jeffrey. So come through the right-hander. They come down the long straight. Francesco 0.1 second behind Jeffrey as he now pops out of this slipstream. Francesco got the inside. Jeffrey gonna have to stay round the outside. Francesco gets nicely up the inside. However, Jeffrey is not backing out. They are side by side as they come through the right-hander. However, Francesco holds on, as that isn't a retirement there from Alessandro. Not sure what happened there, but that has allowed Angelo to take the race lead. Alessandro was looking so promising. However, his race victory has been snatched from underneath him. Really big disappointment for him. However, Jeffrey is now on the rear of Francesco again. Can he get the cut back? It'll be quite a good move if he can. They're going side by side. Francesco, however, holding on and holds on to that 7th place. So it's actually Angelo Trufillo leading the race now. He has raced here. He's started 3 times in the Core Racing Cayman Cup. He's made 2 top 10s and a top 3. A win to his name will certainly be quite a good achievement. Felix Simoes in 12th as you see them running up the hill, closing on the rear of Hines. So we come down the hill. See, Hines is holding on to that 11th position. With Alessandro unfortunately retiring, that has allowed Martin to take the last podium spot and has allowed Luca to take 4th as well. So we'll come back actually to Felix Simoes and Hines again as their gaps begin to close up. Hines making a slight mistake through the right-hander has allowed Felix to really close the gap quite considerably. Will Felix be able to make a move soon? It will certainly be interesting if he can. Martin Palm, actually Luca getting past Martin Palm. Martin making a mistake through turn 1. That allows Luca to take the podium position and has allowed Simone to close up behind. May turn into a very interesting race here. 12 more laps left here. If these battle for 12 laps, it will certainly make great viewing for us here in the commentary box and for you at home. As you can see, quite a cinematic shot as they come up the hill. So you can just see how much they have to fight those G-forces. Martin then coming under pressure from Francesco behind. As you see, cinematic shot of Michael Curvers there coming across the grass as Luca makes a slight mistake, and that allows Martin to get up alongside. Slight bit of a twitch there on the exit. Luca up the inside of Martin Palm. They are near enough side by side coming down the long straight. Simone not that far behind, and Michael Curvers really not that far behind Simone either. Luca going to have the inside for the left-hander. We've seen a lot of moves here. Will Martin Palm be able to stick it? No, he backs out. Wise idea. The number 1 rule of racing, you do not take out your teammate. And Martin Palm sticking to that rule. However, Michael Curvers is now putting pressure on Simone Bellin, and he takes 5th place. What a good capitalised move by him. That was a very good move. Not easy to be done through there. He seems to be able to get quite a good drive out of that corner. However, that puts Michael Curvers up into 5th place. As you see, Luca leading this small train of cars. Bit of a gap now developing between them as they are coming down the straight for turns 2. He's got about half a second behind. Martin got another half a second, and Simone got another half a second behind him. And actually Francesco not that far out of the picture either. So it certainly could become interesting if this turns into a 5-car battle. It's interesting if it's a 2-car, but if we can double that and add another car, it will certainly make some exciting racing. Michael Curvers then in 5th, closing on the rear of Martin Palm now after that good move on Simone. Martin making a slight mistake there. However, holding on to 4th. He's going to have to defend for his life. Luca going to be wanting those drivers to battle behind him to enable him to gain a bit of a lead. That will be a gain of 10 positions from his starting position, which is very good driving if he can stick it. Michael Curvers then on the rear of Martin, doesn't pop out to make a move. We've seen him been able to get a move out of this corner before. Unfortunately couldn't get it done on Martin Palm. Angelo then in the lead. He's got 7 seconds behind him. Gianni may have made a mistake that last lap. He was a second slower. Luca then in 3rd. He's got Martin Palm behind. Michael Curvers just behind him. Simone and Francesco, 2 Italian drivers just behind Michael Curvers as well. Jeffrey then in 8th. He's not too far behind if one of them makes a mistake. However, he will have to drive quite a crazy couple of laps if he wants to catch up. Eric then, very dusty cars. The boys in the pit garage are going to have a busy time cleaning that. Owen in 10th. He's got Hines in 11th and Felix Simoes just behind in 12th. As Gianni actually makes a mistake there, huge mistake through that left-hander. Clearly his tyres may be beginning to wear off and fatigue may be becoming an issue for him. That was a very, very big sideways moment. As Michael Curvis now closing onto the rear of Martin Palmer. He's been racing very well towards the end of this race. Will he be able to keep it and keep on the rear of Martin Palmer and maybe even get past? He hasn't got too many laps to do it. He's got 10 laps to make a move if he does. Felix Simoes in 12th, overtaking, I believe, Miha. I'm not sure, but he is up into 12th place now and on the rear of Hines and Irwin. Martin Palm then closing on the rear of Luca, and Michael Covers on the rear of Martin Palm as well. So the slipstream really coming into effect, allowing these drivers to really bunch back up. Luca deeping a couple of wheels on the grass and couldn't get back off. Slightly wide there by Martin Palm, and that has allowed Michael Curvis to get up alongside us. That's Martin Palm actually off onto the grass. That puts him down into 6th place as Michael Curvis now sets his sights for the Apex Predator Racing driver of Luca in front. Martin Palm now going to come under pressure from Simone behind. However, we're going to focus on this battle for the last podium position. 0.2 seconds between Michael and Luca, and about 0.3 between Michael and Francesco, as he actually looks to make a move up the inside. It'll be a good move if he can. Yes, he does. He takes 4th place from Luca. Really good move by him. However, they are still battling it out here at Virginia Raceway. You see coming up the hill. We will actually have a look at that replay. That was a great move by him. As you saw, Francesco just sneaking up the inside and taking the move from Michael Curvers. Really good move by him. Luca then, unfortunately, due to watching that replay, he has lost a couple of positions. He may have made a mistake. However, he's now putting some pressure on Michael Curvers now to get one of the positions back, and he does take it. However, Michael Curvers not backing out. He gets back up the inside and takes that 4th position back. Good move by him. However, Luca is not backing out. He sticks it back up the inside. It's all heating up here at Virginia, as it looks like Luca gets the cutback, and yes he does, as Michael Curvis dips a couple of wheels. Will it allow Martin Palm to get up alongside? Yes it does. The car's looking very dusty already here, as it may go 3 wide here with Simone up the inside as well. This could prove fatal here at turn 1. What could happen? Martin up in the middle, Simone up the inside, and he gets up past, and Michael Curvis has to slot up into 7th place. However, Simone now going around the outside of Martin Palm as he sticks up the inside and takes 5th place. That could have been fatal, but it just shows how good these drivers are at doing what they do, which is racing in a close proximity without getting into much trouble in terms of collisions. Michael Curvers then. He's sitting in 7th after being overtaken by Luca, and then Simone and Martin Palm in one corner. He is on the rear of Simone. Bellin up in front in 6th. You see dipping a couple of wheels up the inside. Martin Palm then dipping a couple of wheels also as they come into the right-hander before the long straight. Doesn't look like any of them are going to really be in close enough proximity to truly make a move, unless if they go for quite a dive. Felix then still not being able to get past that white and green car, or white, green and black car of Hines. They come down the long straight. So come down over the crest of the hill, down into the left-hander. and then the slow right. Michael Curvers on the rear of Simone now. Will he look for revenge into turn 1? Doesn't look like he's really close enough to truly make a move. However, he is now really closing up in the slipstream. Simone going defensive clearly saw Michael's intentions, and Michael having to go the long way round, and it proves it doesn't work. However, he's very out of shake on the exit, managing to hold it. Looked like he was going for the cutback, but unfortunately put the power on too early and gets into 7th position now. See these drivers all really battling for position. We're at the halfway mark here at Core Racing. We've only got another 6 more rounds, which isn't that many rounds to score points. Felix Simoes in 12th. He's on the rear of Hines and Irwin still. These drivers not really been able to get past one of each other, or each other even. So they come into the long run up the hill chicanes. Obviously through there. See Michael Curvers then in 7th in the Vulcan racing car. Not racing for Vulcan Racing, however it's a Vulcan theme. Obviously using those tyres. Most drivers using Michelin's. Michael opting to go for Vulcans, and it seems to be paying off here. Darren Adams then, a driver who's been fairly quiet after getting caused in some collisions going up the inside of Miha Ersti. As they come side by side, he's down in 14th place. He slots back in the slipstream. Will come on board with Darren Adams now on the rear of that black, white and red racing machine. He gets it up the inside. Who will brake later? Looks like they braked at about the same point. However, Miha will have the inside, and Darren Adams has to stay in 14th. 8 laps remaining then. No, sorry, 6 laps remaining here at this racetrack for the Core Racing Cayman Cup. Michael Curvers in 7th on the rear of Simone Bellon, 0.4 between the two. They come down the long straight. Darren Adams and Miha now going side by side. Miha going to have the inside. Darren Adams not really been able to truly make a move. He is the faster driver between the two. He now sticks it up the inside. No, he doesn't. He stays in 14th place. We come back to Simone Bellon and Michael Curvers. Michael then in 7th on the rear of Simone. They come down the long straight. Michael Curvers 0.1 between the two, so they come down into the braking zone. Simone holding on. However, Michael does stick up the inside. Little bit of door tapping between the two. However, Michael gets up in front and into 6th place. Hines going side by side with Felix Simoes now. Felix finally been able to get past both drivers. As it looked like Owen may have made a mistake as he lost both the position to Hines and Felix, and is now running in 12th. Martin now putting some pressure on Luca. Looks like Luca may have made a mistake, as Martin has quite a bit of a speed difference between the two. As Michael now looks to go for a move. Looks like Luca was too late to really make a defensive manoeuvre, and it looks like Michael is up into 5th. They are side by side. Luca will have the inside for the left and takes back that top 5 finish, as Simone now goes up the inside of Michael Curvers. He done it last lap, however couldn't make it all 8 previous laps, but couldn't get past this time. Five laps remaining here at Virginia International Raceway. Michael Curvers on the rear of Luca again as they come over the top of the hill. 0.2 seconds between these two. Certainly hitting it up between these. Luca got about a second and a half gap to Martin up in front, and Francesco managing to gain quite a sizable gap in front of Martin as well. Francesco been showing quite a good pace throughout the race. He may even be able to catch up to Gianni in front. He was about 3 seconds faster that last lap, and there's about 15 seconds, 12 seconds separating them. So he could potentially close up Michael Curvers. As Luca makes a mistake, he's off playing in the grass, loses a few position and goes into 8th place. Jeffrey actually catching up to the back of Simone. Good driving by him. He unfortunately losing quite a few positions. He was running in 3rd just a few laps ago, and now he's down in 8th as a driver now comes into the pits. That's Harrod. Unfortunate for him, not been having the best of races here. Simone then on the rear of Michael Curvers. Luca gonna hope that they continue battling over the next few laps to allow him to catch up. So it looks like Michael Curvers is going to hold on to that 5th place. Simone then sitting in 6th. Jeffrey not that far behind, racing for that clean racing group. Simone obviously racing for Fast and Aged Racing, as Harrod unfortunately retires from the race, sorry. With only 5 laps to go. That is unfortunate for him, as it looked like Jeffrey may have made a mistake there, as Luca has considerably caught up to the rear. You can just see how dirty these cars are. They're certainly going, if there's any car washing businesses in the nearby area, they are certainly going to get quite a few profits after this race. Luca then on the rear of Jeffrey. Dropped off slightly now. He's got 4 laps to really catch up. It will certainly be a drive if he can. If he can get back that 5th place, that will be an amazing drive. Darren Adams down in 14th. He was past Miha, I believe. However, he's back behind. 0.4 between the two. They come down the very, very long straight. Doesn't look like he is able to really get past as of yet. Francesco is about 5/10 faster, so it doesn't look like he's really going to be able to close the gap unless if he makes a mistake. That is a back marker in the distance just in front of the number 321 of Francesco Medi. Martin Palm in 4th. Michael Curvers actually making a mistake, and he's very wide off as he catches the rear of Luca. That is unfortunate. Luca ending up in the wall. That is unfortunate for him. That was a big collision there. That has cost both of these drivers their races, as that was just Michael really trying to push the limits, and that has punted Luca down into 9th and on the rear of Eric. We'll have a look at the replay then of that incident by Michael Curvers. As you saw, Michael Curvers just getting very sideways, running too wide, and then trying to get it stopped. Unfortunately tagged the rear of Luca. Unfortunate for him. So as we come back to the live racing action, Luca about a second behind Eric now. The stewards will definitely have a look at that collision. They will certainly have a lot to look at, especially with drivers using quite a lot of the grass on the inside of corners. So it looks like the drivers are going to be slightly spaced out for the end of the race. We're down to 17 drivers. We're at around 21, I believe, at the start of the race. 21, 20 drivers. And we are down to 17. Oh, and then on the rear of Hines. This is the closest battle on track, I believe. or one of Darren Adams, another one of the drivers in a battle with Miho. He's just not been able to get past that driver up in front. Unfortunate for him. Angelo then, he's been leading the race from the point that Alessandro retired, and he's been holding it quite comfortably. He's been just racing his own race, and he's been looking very comfortable whilst doing it. See, coming down into the braking zone, really not pushing the car too hard, making sure that his tyres will make it to the end, and to make sure he will make it back to the pit lane into the winner's circle in one piece. Martin Palm in 4th position. He's got quite a gap up in front. He's got quite a gap behind as well. He's got 2 seconds to Simone behind. Doesn't look like he's going to really be able to close down any gaps. So it looks like Martin will be settling for around 4th if he doesn't make a mistake. Simone rounding up the top 5 after we had those hectic couple of laps. Jeffrey in 6th. He's capitalised quite considerably on those mistakes of the other drivers. Eric in 8th with Luca in 9th. And he's got Paul McLeod just behind as well. However, he is a back marker. Felix Simoes in 10th. He's got Hines and Irwin following him. Miha Ersti in 13th. He's got Darren Adams just behind as well. He's been lapping quite well actually. He was down in the 1:54's last lap. Darren Adams also in the 1:54's. John Loudon not been having the best of races. He's down in 16th. In 15th, sorry. Chris Thorpe in 16th. And Paul McLeod getting out of the way of the drivers up in front. He's in 17th. Over you see Angelo leading the race. He's only got a lap and a few corners to go. Francesco in 3rd. Looks like these drivers will be settled for their positions as there's quite a sizable gap between the two. Closest battle on track now is Miha Ersti and Darren Adams, battling for what is 13th place. Unlucky for some, not unlucky if you're Miha. If he stays there, as that's more points for him. Angelo then coming on to his final lap. Gianni coming through the final turn, or the final real turn, as this, you could consider that to be the final turn. However, it is just a slight kink and driver's taking it flat out, as he now starts his final lap. Quite a big gap then between the two. Francesco in 3rd with Martin Palm in 4th, now coming across the line. As you see, Simone actually closing up quite considerably onto the rear of Martin Palm. We'll have to see whether he can close the gap. He certainly hasn't got a lot of time to do it. He was 6/10 faster that last lap. Very, very, very nearly just breaking into the 1:53s. As he's got Jeffrey just behind as well. And Michael Curvers slotting in behind Jeffrey for 7th place. Eric then in 8th. He's been racing quite well. He's capitalised on quite a few of the other drivers' mistakes. Similar to Jeffrey actually, he's been capitalising on quite a few mistakes. Luca, after getting involved in that unfortunate collision, he's running down in 9th place. Still quite a good drive. That's 4 positions gained by him from his qualifying result. Felix in 10th. He's closing on to the rear of Luca. 0.8 now between the two. Will Luca be able to hold on? If Felix can really close the gap, Luca will have to stick his elbows out. He has got a bit of front damage. And it looks like Felix has suffered very, very slight cosmetic front damage, but nothing too major. So we come to Angelo then. He takes the race victory, celebrating with his team engineers in the pit lane. Good race victory by him. as we come to Gianni taking that second place. Francesco only got a corner to go to round off the podium. Simone closing on to the rear of Martin. However, it was too late to really make a move. He's going to certainly try nonetheless, but it is too late. Michael Curvers in 7th. He's got a gap behind him to Eric. And looks like he's going to hold on. It's too late for Felix as well. Luke is going to hold on to that 9th position. However, he is not far behind. Could be a drag race as Luca dips a couple of wheels. It is a drag race to the line. Luca dipping another couple of wheels. Who will take the race victory, as it is Felix to take 9th place. Unfortunate for Luca there, as Hines takes 11th. Chris Thorpe in 12th. Owen in 13th. Miha in 14th, I think, as it looks like our driving, as our standings have messed up a little bit. We will go to a short advert break now, as we will hope to grab a word with a few drivers. So then, quite an exhilarating race here at Virginia International Raceway. We have with me Jeffrey here, who finished 6th. Jeffrey, give us a quick rundown of that race.
Hi guys. Well, yeah, I was went better than expected actually. Well, the first lap was kind of sloppy. There were some accidents here and there. Had to avoid some, but I was luckily not in those incidents. So yeah, getting further. Start was the grip was okay. But the first drop, I felt something like after 10 laps or something. Then I had some little trouble. I don't know, maybe my setup wasn't right for that or something. But yeah, it was very tough mid-race for me. Luckily, gladly, the guys in front of me were battling hard or something. I gained a few seconds sometimes. So yeah, that was very positive for me, of course. So I could hook up, and yeah, at the end of the race, the tires felt better than mid-race, strangely. So I had a little bit more confidence. Just didn't try to make any mistakes, and yeah, eventually after some fun battles with Heinz and Michael. Yeah, it was good fun, and finishing 6th was better than expected.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like you were capitalising quite a lot on drivers' mistakes. Will you look to do that for the rest of the season, or you hope for it to be a bit more battle-based?
Well, I have the feeling that some wider, longer tracks suits me better than the short tracks like we did last week. I don't know, just doesn't feel good to me in this car then. Yeah, maybe I can put up a little fight next laps of next races. It would be good, it would be fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. With the Red Bull Ring being the next track, obviously national layout, definitely want to be faster.
Oh, Red Bull Ring, yeah, it's a cool track. Yeah, maybe it suits me very well in this car. We will see. I have to say the competition is really, really hard. It's just extremely. There's top 15 mostly are almost the same. Only this race there were a few guys that were really quick. I don't know how they do it, but maybe I had to practice a bit more or something.
Yeah, definitely. There is certainly some very fast drivers out there, and certainly some very good drivers, nonetheless, driving very close together. Well, thank
Yeah,
you. Very well done in that race. We look forward to seeing some more good races, and maybe even a podium in the future.
that would be great.
Alright, so we will hopefully maybe grab a word with another driver. Who shall we have? We'll actually have we'll have Jeffrey's teammate Erwin. Erwin, we just had a word with your teammate. How did you find that race go?
Yeah, I wasn't really satisfied, but yeah, overall it was alright. But just the guys in front are so fast, so it's hard to match their pace. Am
Yeah,
I live right now or?
yeah, you are live right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been teammates with Jeff for quite a long time, and we also did some racing in Apex Online Racing in the highest league of Project Cars. And if you compare like the level of skill of those drivers to this is maybe even faster than the top tier in the other league. So it's really difficult to get like those last tenths out of it. But overall, I had some mistakes. I had some loss of concentration, but it was an alright race.
yeah, definitely. Seems to be very fast drivers here, with Core Racing being one of the biggest Assetto Corsa leagues as such. With obviously you and Jeffrey, you seem to be appearing in quite a few rounds. Do you see yourself competing in the team standings? You are sitting about 7th currently. Do you see yourself working your way up anymore?
Yeah, we have to see what comes next, but yeah, I find it personally pretty difficult to compete in the top drivers, but yeah, we'll keep working hard and maybe do a bit more practice and a bit more setup work, and yeah, try to be a bit more competitive. Jeff is doing a great race, great season so far, so
Yeah,
I'm not sure if we'll finish much higher up, but yeah, it's not too bad.
yeah, definitely. With obviously you and Jeffrey being teammates, as you said about setup, do you both work on as such the same setup, or do you go your own ways to begin with and then try each other's setup and then adjust each other's?
Yeah, most of the times we start with a known good setup, you know. So we compare tracks and we try some baselines from other tracks, and from there we try to adjust some things to make it suit ourselves better. And yeah, we share setups. And tonight Jeff was driving with a setup of mine, so he just really outperformed me. Yeah, but we both you know, try to yeah, do a bit of work on the setup and compare it.
Yeah, definitely, certainly a team sport here. Well, very well done in that race, and we look forward to seeing you gaining quite a few positions, and both you and your team getting and working your way up the standings. So that was round 6 of the Core Racing Cayman Cup. We will see you next round at Red Bull Ring National. Certainly will prove to be an interesting race, especially with it being 2 rounds with that reverse race in the second round of that night. From us in the commentary box from Virginia International Raceway, we will see you next time. Good night.